Everybody, thank you so much for joining us here today for our second of a three-part series on a student summer impact series, highlighting some great community engaged work, community-led work from our students. And we're going to highlight some of the excellent mini grant projects from our new Civic Fellows today. My name is Will Brummett. I have the absolute joy and honor of being the student engagement manager here at Campus Compact with my colleague Morgan Goodwin. And we are so excited today to bring you some excellent students who did some really impactful, beautiful work this spring semester. So we're going to do first, though, before we get started, is I'm going to share real quickly my screen, just so we can get on the same page around, for those of you who maybe not familiar in regards to what is the Newman Civic Fellowship, who are these students, and what will they be talking about today. So at the very beginning, though, we really want to take a moment to pause and first just thank our sponsors, which are the Allstate Foundation. The Allstate Foundation really deeply believes in youth-led service and change work. And as part of that belief, they were kind enough to fund this sort of pilot program to offer mini grant opportunities for our new Civic Fellows of the class of 2023-2024 to apply for mini grants to make change in their home communities, whether it be on their campus, in their local community, or in another context as well. We're really grateful to highlight 4 of those exceptional students today, but we would not be here without the funding and the support of the Allstate Foundation. So I want to first just thank them before we get going. So a lot of people ask, if you're not familiar, what is the Newman Civic Fellowship? What do all these students have in common? And the Newman Civic Fellowship is one of our sort of longest standing programs at Campus Compact. And what it is, it was created actually in honor of Frank Newman, who is a huge advocate for student leadership and student voice. Frank was a founder of Campus Compact in this movement almost 40 years ago. And we named this fellowship in honor of him to sort of highlight some of our best student social change agents across the country. It's a year-long fellowship that basically we provide every university or college who's a member of Campus Compact to nominate one student. That student gets to be a part of an annual convening and Newman Fellows, monthly leadership and networking trainings, a mentorship program where they meet with a local mentor 4 times throughout the year, and then multiple professional development opportunities, whether it be a post-grad fair or a special opportunity for a fellowship they can apply for after Newman. It's a really exceptional program that offers some of our best and brightest student leaders the chance to connect, care, and create change together. We really look for all types of students. The one commonality is all of our Newmans are really community committed students. So these are students who have demonstrated an investment in their campus or their local communities. They're really trying to tackle sticky challenges that are affecting themselves, their communities, and also just their neighbors locally. And they are students who have shown and demonstrated an effort to solve that, whether it be through community-engaged research, community organizing, direct service. No matter the method of change, all of the Newmans have in common the common commitment to improve their local and campus communities. Newmans literally range in all ages, types, backgrounds. We have Newmans from ages of 19 to 57, all races, gender, sexual orientations, economic classes. They're from all different parts of the country. We had Newmans from 38 different states, and they're from all types of institutions, whether they be 2-year community colleges, 4-year public, 4-year private. We have some Newmans in grad school. We have some Newmans in undergrad. We have a really diverse array of student leaders across the country as part of this fellowship. The one requirement is that Newmans do have to be from a Campus Compact school, and they do have to have 1 year of eligibility remaining, meaning that they have to have either 1 year left. If they're a 2-year graduate from their associate's degree, they have to be transferring to a 4-year institution, or if they just graduated their senior year, they have to be doing another year of grad school at the university where they're at. We require that because we want all of our Newmans to be current students as part of the cohort fellowship, because it's a sort of a common thing that bonds them all. But if the student was a Newman from a 2-year institution at a Campus Compact university, but then is transferring to a non-Campus Compact member for a 4-year, we do allow that because we see that Newman representing the school that nominated them as well. So again, Newmans come in all shapes and sizes. We really encourage you, if you're interested in this, we'll tell you at the end how to get in contact with us about potentially exploring having a Newman Fellow on your campus. So I'll talk a little bit today about the mini grant program and what the purpose of this was. Really, the purpose of this was recognizing that students are really the leaders of today and not just the leaders of tomorrow, and they're able to make community impact right now, and they're doing that. So the idea was, what if instead of us giving them money through local nonprofits or just through the universities themselves, what if you gave it directly to the students and let them work in concert with local nonprofits and the university to make the change and really sort of center community impact? We trusted our student leaders, and we wanted to give them a chance to not only grow as leaders themselves, learning the grant-making process, but also a chance to sort of show their local community that they are those leaders in their community today. And then lastly, we always wanted our new students, everything we do, we wanted them to reflect and grow through this process. So I told all of them up front, perfection was never the goal. The goal was the process and the learning and the impact and the continued commitment you all been showing to your local communities. So we have a lot of education and reflection that was a part of this process. Specifically, the way the program looked for the first year was that current Newman Fellows could apply for grants between $500 to $1,500, or they could apply for a joint project with another Newman for up to $3,000. They all had to complete their projects by June 30th of this year, and they were awarded in the spring semester. So they got their monies around January or February, and they had around 6 months to complete it. This work could be either enhancing a current project, so something they're already involved in at a local nonprofit or a campus initiative, or it could be a new innovative idea that they were seeding on campus, hosting a new conference on campus that's never been hosted before, or developing a new tool that community partners could use. Students were actually allowed to choose the issue that mattered most to them and the method of change. So some students did research, some students did direct service, some students had workshops on their campus. We really allowed a wide array of ideas and not limited the students to what they could sort of use as their issue they wanted to tackle or the way they did it. Students did receive grant training prior to applications, so they had questions around how to apply. And then the recipients of the grant actually received monthly training on topics like project planning, budget management, evaluation and assessment, as well as storytelling. And the final thing is that the final requirement as part of the grant was that all students have to do a final report about the process and what they learned from this, as well as a final presentation, which 4 of them are doing for you all today. So that's a little bit of the process and the program itself. In terms of broad view of who was awarded a mini grant, this year we awarded mini grants to over 30 different mini Newman Fellows. Those Newman Fellows received over $47,000 total in direct funds awarded. They were from 25 different states, represented 26 different issue areas. And like I mentioned, this is the first annual grant cycle, but it is something we're hoping to repeat in the coming years, and we already have committed for next year's cohort as well. So we're really excited about this program. Now, enough about the program and the Newman Fellows, enough to hearing from me. Let's get to the most important thing, which are the students and the student speakers. So today's speakers, we're really proud to have 4 outstanding Newmans who did amazing projects. First, we'll have Paola Perez, who's going to be from CSU Northridge, and we'll talk about her project, Plants for Good, a community resource project. We're really excited about Paola's ability to bring together sort of her passion within her major to her local community. And then we're going to have Marguerite Stoffel, who's going to come from Drake University, and going to talk about the work that Marguerite did empowering student activists on Drake's campus and how the mini grant allowed her to do that. And then we'll next go to Karla Mercado Dorado, who's going to be from Marymount University. And Karla did an amazing workshop on career development and resources for undocumented students in our community. And last but not least, we're going to Pilotte. Kelly did an amazing work advancing her work she's already sort of founded with the Michael Stephen Boyd Foundation Outreach Initiative. So you're going to hear from Kelly about what she's been doing in New Hampshire as an impactful Newman Fellow. Lastly, we were hoping to emphasize one outstanding Newman, Parwinder Singh, who is actually from Ohio University. Unfortunately, Parwinder is actually completing an amazing summer internship with Amazon in India currently, so he's not able to join us live, but he did send a video that we will send later on with our notes from this and with a recording as well. So you'll be able to watch his great work, and he's doing some amazing work on artificial intelligence and using it to close the equity and career gap at Ohio University and in the local community. So he's going to talk about the AI symposium he held, as well as the tools he's developing. But with that, we're going to go ahead and pass it to the students. So I will stop sharing and I will bring Paola to the stage, who will come and present first. So Paola, you are up.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Paola Perez. I'm a senior majoring in film production at the California State University of Northridge. And today I'm going to be talking about Plants for Good, a community resource project. Plants for Good is a project that provides new resources to the low-income community of Conejo Park, an area with a high immigrant population of Latino individuals. During monthly produce distributions at Monarch Park, we gave away various herbs in painted pots. This gave people the opportunity to grow some of their own cooking ingredients to save money and learn about what they eat. These produce distributions are hosted by CalFresh and the LA Food Bank, so I just wanted to add something that will further support the people of the community. The first steps of my project included preparation days and making sure that they coordinate with the distribution dates set by CalFresh. I also had to organize pot painting workshops, purchase materials, and create informational brochures. Some of the challenges I faced with this project were that my original ideas had to change in order to benefit the people attending the produce distributions, as well as for me to be able to work with the budget for a longer amount of time. So for example, I wanted people to come and paint their own pots, but this would take up time because people line up, take their produce and go home. So it wouldn't really work, especially because it was a lot of adults attending. And something else was that I originally wanted to give grown herbs to everyone, but they are costly. And in order to distribute my budget and make it work a little better, I decided to also include some seeds in the pots instead, so people were able to grow their own herbs as well. In the very beginning of the project, it was a challenge to have enough plants, especially when I was still trying to figure out how many I should be bringing and how many people actually came, and kind of like finding a main number of people that attended the events. And the last challenge is that there's no guarantee that the plant will grow or remain healthy. The most we could do is provide informational brochures for people to take. And we also had a little QR code in order to save some paper as well. Some lessons from this project are that a little extra help can mean a lot to people who need it. Working with others makes things easier, so always ask for help when you feel it is needed. And last but not least is that things don't need to be perfect to work. Something with a good intention will always find its way to make a good influence on the community. Next, I'm going to highlight some of the outcomes of my project. So we were able to provide herbs during 4 produce distributions at Lanark Park. We gave away almost 400 pots during these times. We were able to table at 3 events, specifically with the Roots and Shoots program. We gave about 200 pots. We hosted 6 pot painting workshops at CSUN with B2F scholars in order to prepare for the produce distributions. This is something that was able to happen because I also submitted my project for another mini grant with the Roots and Shoots program. So we were able to make collaborations with the Roots and Shoots program as well as the Friends of the LA River. And this led to taking my project to more than just Lanark Park. We were able to attend different events. And lastly, this is something I did not expect at all with my project in the beginning. We were able to jumpstart a community resource fair at Lanark Park. So I introduced my project to the director of the Bridge to the Future program, and he mentioned that he actually had an idea of creating a resource fair, but they hadn't started it yet. So with the existence of my project, we were able to push for a resource fair. And we have some programs such as the Alliance for Community Empowerment, Strength United, the Child Development Institute, One Generation, and Bob Blumenfield attending these events. And having the Allstate Foundation's funds for my project was able to extend the duration of my project. So I was able to do enough months for people to keep having these resources. And I was also able to give out more herbs. As I mentioned, it could get a little bit costly. So I was able to have more money available to buy herbs and provide them to the community. These are some pictures of B2F scholars painting pots. Most of these workshops were held on campus, but we were also able to do some pot painting at Lanark Park. Now, these are some pictures from the actual produce distributions, as well as some events we were able to go to. There are 3 next steps that are mainly fundamental to my project. They include undergoing modifications, continuing the project, and having new funding. So modifications to the project are going to be based on what I've experienced, as well as some changes that might be able to help with the budget, so the money can focus on buying herbs and seeds instead of pots and that kind of material. So I was thinking of using recycled materials. For the new funding, I already have some funding with Roots and Shoots again, but I will continue to look at other grants and scholarships that will be able to provide for my project as well. I do plan to manage my project more, and with that, I want to assign different roles to people so that the work can be distributed. These next 2 steps are a little bit aside from my project, but the start of my project actually led to some other scholars in the program to start their own community projects. So I'm very proud that I was able to inspire them, and I will be helping them and supporting in any way that I can. And the last one is that I do plan to continue volunteering at produce distributions and other community events. So some of the things that I've learned include management skills, specifically leadership, planning, budgeting, and organization. A lot of these things I had some experience with, but hosting this project was a little bit different for me, and I was able to grow in each of those areas. All of these management skills do apply to my major, film production, and I'm currently in emphasis in production. So there's a lot of these elements that I'm able to apply to my current major. And from this experience, I've gained new connections, specifically with the Roots and Shoots program, but I've also been able to make connections between the community and these different programs that are attending the resource fair. So that's something that was a little bit unexpected, but it was very helpful, and it was an additional resource to my plans. And last but not least is meeting the Newman Fellows. I was able to see what people are doing in different areas of the United States to help their communities. Something I take away from this experience is the importance of community. Not only what I was able to do to help others, but I've been also seeing the different kinds of problems there are and how people are taking a step to fix these things. And something that I'm more proud about this process is the fact that I've been able to attend these workshops that make me see things in a different perspective and prepare in different ways. And in addition to this, I feel proud that my project was the start of something. So there's other students, as I mentioned before, who are starting projects after seeing that it can be done. And it's something I'm very proud of because I volunteer and do a lot of community service, but this project was a step further to that because I was able to make it happen and have other people join me for my community service. I'd like to thank you all for your time, and these are some special thank yous. These programs and people have been able to help me to make this project come true. Thank you for your time.
Awesome, Paola. Beautiful job. I love that your project's called Plants for Good, because I think a plant is a great metaphor for what you did, of like you already had an existing rich soil of relationships with the local community, but you had an idea, you used the funding from this grant as well as Roots and Shoots to really grow something, and now you're seeing the ripple effects of that, not only in your project, but also in the students you inspired. Excellent, excellent job. You represented CSU Northridge incredibly well. All right, so next up, we're going to bring to the stage Marguerite Stoffel from Drake University, who's going to talk about her wonderful work working with empowering student activists on Drake's campus. So with that, Marguerite, I'm going to pin you, bring you up to the front, and please feel free to go. And yep, we can see your screen right now, so you're good to go. You're great. Go ahead.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Will. And thank you everyone for sharing your time this summer with us. I'm excited to share a little bit more about my Newman mini grant project, empowering student activists, how to be a change maker on campus and in the community. So just to get started, a little bit about me. Like Will said, I'm from Drake University. I'm actually a recent graduate. I graduated in May with a degree in accounting and a minor in leadership, education, and development. So very exciting. I had the opportunity to do this project through the spring of my senior year, which led to some challenges as well that you'll hear about a little bit later. And then just to get started, some of the project goals that I had from the beginning, like Will mentioned, a lot of our projects changed a lot throughout the semester, and you'll see that with mine as well. So one of the goals I had in the beginning, or the kind of idea that my project started out with as, was to put on a conference for student advocates and activists on campus. I wanted this to be something where students could receive some formal training on social change work, as well as have some time to connect with each other. And then definitely pivoted throughout this project. We just kind of realized that it made more sense to fit into our semester and fit into the busy lives of students to do something more condensed. So kind of ended up settling on one kind of one-off workshop as part of another conference. So then as far as my project implementation, kind of the beginning steps to implementing this project, it's kind of a fun story because the project idea ultimately came out of attending a Iowa and Minnesota Campus Compact conference in the fall, where a group of students from Drake were able to ride to this conference together. And we had about an hour drive there and an hour drive back. And we all just kind of talked about what change we want to see on our campus and in our community. And it was really funny because I have kind of always considered myself as being fairly involved on campus, and there were several students going to this conference that I didn't know and had no idea what they were doing. And I was like, we really need to like build this connection between students on Drake's campus. So that's where the idea started. And then from then on, that group of students, or several of them, became kind of a focus group for this mini grant project and helped a lot with the ideation and feedback. So I was able to kind of use them as resources to give ideas to, get their feedback, and then take that to a staff member at Drake, who then would assist me as well in thinking of what fit best within our campus environment. From then on, we kind of faced some big challenges, one being time. I think this is probably a challenge for everyone, not only my time, the time of students, but also just reserving rooms on campus and finding time to fit this in. Like I said before, that's kind of why we ended up paring this down into more of a one-off workshop. It just fit within student schedules better. And as much as we wanted this to be a resource for students, we also didn't want it to be a burden for them to fit into their schedules. So based off of student feedback, we did adjust that to just be a 45-minute workshop. And then attendance as well. I think that goes into time a lot too. We do have like night classes at Drake, and people are super involved and very busy. So finding a time that worked for the target audience that we wanted to get in attendance was definitely a little bit of a challenge. And then as we decided to pare this back to kind of a one-off workshop, we wanted to tack it on to one of the several other conferences that was happening at Drake. So finding which of these conferences had the best mission alignment for my project was really important to ensuring that we were getting the target audience we wanted to. And then adaptations we made to kind of address these challenges were finding that collaboration. So we ultimately ended up partnering with our College of Business. They were doing a Business for Good summit this semester, and we're able to add this workshop as a separate student track and student workshop during that conference. And that just kind of goes along with that adjusted scale. Originally, I wanted to do kind of a follow-up meeting and keep that ongoing conversation and dialogue going between students, but it really just fit better into people's schedules to adjust that down to kind of a one-off workshop and then ensure we could have big takeaways for students. And then some lessons I learned with this was the importance of targeted marketing. I worked with the kind of group planning the business conference, and they had their separate target audience that they were advertising to. And I think there were some opportunities for me to do a little bit more targeted outreach and get more students from across campus at this workshop. And then clear communication as well, just working with so many different people planning the Business for Good Summit. And then while I was planning my part of it in the workshop, clear communication, you can just never communicate enough. And then next up, I have some pictures from the workshop session here on this slide. And then just wanted to talk a little bit about project outcomes as well. So the desired outcomes are kind of what I sat down and thought about at the beginning of this. So I really wanted to have that workshop participation from students, but also some way to follow up or do a follow-up session on how like these ideas could actually be implemented on campus. I was really focused on building lasting connections and then also having students identify what social issues are impacting our campus and our surrounding community. And then as far as actual outcomes from the workshop, each student was able to take away a completed worksheet, which you'll see on the next slide, which identified the social issue that they felt was most important to address on our campus and community, as well as their plan for addressing it or their desired solutions. A lot of students, it was really fun to watch, were able to exchange contact information. I got to watch one interaction after where an incoming Drake student talked to a current Drake student and they exchanged phone numbers and established each other as resources for that student as she comes to Drake in the fall. And then again, just that relationship building, knowing that they have each other to lean on as they kind of look to implement their ideas. So this is the worksheet that students were able to fill out and then kind of work through in the workshop. So Matthew Williams, it was the speaker we had, and he is a current graduate student at Drake University, who I've had the amazing opportunity to have a lot of classes with because he's an accounting major as well. And he was very successful in advocating for disability awareness and accessibility on our campus. So he took his experience and turned it into this workshop and worksheet. So students were able to kind of learn from him and put in an action plan to address some issues on Drake's campus. And then next up, there's this kind of artistic rendering from big takeaways from the Business for Good Summit. So thanks to the money from my mini grant, I was able to contribute to bringing an artist in. We know how important it is to not only have quantitative takeaways and measurements of impact, but also qualitative as well. And this was one way we wanted to kind of measure that and measure the takeaways that students had. So one thing I want to point out on here as the collaboration allows for scale and bigger impact. That was a big takeaway from not only this conference, but I think my entire Newman experience as well. And then what does this project look like moving forward? As I said, I did graduate this May, so my involvement will kind of change looking forward in the future, but I really do hope to attend any kind of social impact work and social impact workshops on campus in the future, as well as just make myself accessible to any students who have questions about the things that I did during my time at Drake. And then as far as impact, I really do think that this workshop began to kind of break down those barriers and build connections between students from all corners of campus, as well as help them to have action plans for making change. I think a lot of times it's super easy to have these big ideas, but get stuck in how can we implement them. And this workshop helped to have students see how they can do that. And then my hopes for the future, I think it's so important to have student specific workshops and programming, as well as like formal education in these areas. So having implemented that as like a student track in this conference, I really hope to see that continue and have special like programs or workshops during that conference targeted to students. And that will also just allow students to connect with others who want to make change. I think something during the Newman experience that was so impactful for me was like meeting all of the different students from different campuses across all of the US that are doing things that you have no idea about. And that is just really motivating as a student activist. And then lastly, my personal growth through this experience, I definitely learned a lot of lessons and a lot of ways that I can kind of apply this in my future. So it's been a recurring theme throughout this presentation, but the importance of connection and support. It's so important to have people around you that are doing similar things that you can learn from, as well as formal training and education around social change for students. I really appreciate everything Campus Compact is doing around this, because I think a lot of times as a student, it's easy to feel like you have no idea what you're doing or you're not qualified. And then the harm of working in silos, again, just building those connections and working across dimensions to work with each other and create more change. And then lastly, application and kind of how I'll take this with me. There's definitely, I've learned throughout this process, there's room for social change advocacy in every career. It looks different, it won't be the same, but there's room. And then as I kind of go into my career, I want to always make sure I'm still asking questions and bringing a new perspective. My experiences are different from everyone else's, and everyone else's experiences are different from mine, and that's what makes them valuable. And then I know as I move forward, I will make space in my life for social causes I'm passionate about, whether that's through work or through volunteering. And then lastly, I just want to say thank you to not only Campus Compact and the Allstate Foundation, but to Will and Morgan for everything you have done for us, to Amanda, Danette, Ryan, Isabella, Chloe, and Matthew for all the help that they've provided me throughout this entire project.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Marguerite. You did an amazing job. I love your origin story as well. I think it's such a great example of when students come together and literally have a conversation like, what would we like to see changed? Where does this go? And you actually did it. And I love the lessons you showed as well of how reflective you were and how much you learned to pivot as well. Like sometimes we think about big change, we have to make a series of workshops, and then you got like this will get really granular. This could be really impactful, narrowing in on one. So I love that and the lessons you've done. And I'm so glad we have another social change agent in the accounting sphere as well. We need that. We need social change agents in all career pathways. And I think you exhibited that beautifully and made Drake very proud. I know you made us proud at Compact. All right, so next up, we're going to go to Karla. Karla is going to do an amazing job telling you all about the really cool opportunity to provide professional and career development workshops for undocumented students at Marymount. So Karla, I'm going to kick it to you and pin you, and I'll let you know. Yep, we can see your screen right now. Should be good. And yep, and once you unmute, you should be good to go.
Hey, hi everyone. Thank you for joining us. So this is my project review for the Newman Mini Grant Showcase. So a little bit about me. I am a recent graduate from Marymount University, graduated with a BS in biochemistry. I was originally born in Bolivia and I arrived to the US at the age of 2 and grew up in Northern Virginia. And I'm currently undocumented, and this is relevant to my project. It is something that's very personal to me. A little bit more information also, I was part of a group called Saints Unafraid, which is the immigrant advocacy group at Marymount University, and is also registered as a student chapter of United We Dream in the DMV area, and United We Dream being the largest immigrant youth-led network in the country, then also worked with President's Alliance on Higher Education and Immigration, which worked to expand higher ed access for undocumented and immigrant students. And so all of this experience, personal and professional, has led me to getting inspired to work on this project, which was a career development workshop for undocumented students. And I worked primarily with the director of the Abide Hub at Marymount University, which stands for Access, Belonging, Inclusion, Diversity, and Equity. And then also Sarah Kim, who's the founder and CEO of Edulite Inc., who was our guest speaker, and I'll talk more about in a little bit. And our target population was undocumented students in higher education, more specifically those currently enrolled or recently graduated from college, so at the undergraduate level in the Washington metropolitan area. And so some objectives that we had with this project and the strategies that we used to reach these objectives. So we wanted to reach as many undocumented students in the region as possible, and this worked. We were originally going to keep it internal within Marymount University and decided to expand our reach by inviting other universities in the area to join. And so that included Trinity Washington University in Washington, D.C., and the Northern Virginia, excuse me, community colleges. And we also originally were going to do a one-day in-person workshop and decided to expand it to 2 days and offer it virtually in order to get more students able to attend. And so the goal of the content of the workshop was to increase students' confidence in their academic and professional pursuits, despite the barriers that they face due to their immigration status. So we wanted to make sure that any of the information, tips, and resources that we shared were tailored to address those specific needs of these students in their unique circumstances. And within the space, we wanted to facilitate connections and among students and build community. And so we made sure that the space was safe and welcoming and also encouraged networking and socialization throughout the workshop. And finally, we wanted to lay the foundation for further collaboration between everyone involved in the project. And so this was primarily between Marymount and the speaker, but also between all of the institutions, and then hopefully introducing the other institutions to our speaker and just building that network of resources in the area. And so we plan to follow up with the speaker and follow up with other institutions and just maintain those relationships as much as possible. And so in terms of planning, we had 3 major, I guess, hurdles that we wanted to tackle. So the first was finding a speaker and setting a date. That was our first one that we decided, once that was done, it was kind of like everything else would flow smoothly. And then securing additional funding and other logistics as needed. And then finally, just promoting and executing the event, which is everyone's favorite part in project planning. However, finding a speaker proved to be the biggest hurdle. It wasn't as linear as I had originally imagined it to be. In terms of what we wanted from a speaker, we wanted them to be local, to minimize travel costs, avoid conflicting time zones, and just also be more relatable to the students in our area. And then we wanted them to be affordable because we were on a budget, and relevant in terms of their content that they were going to share with us, and then also their background. So we wanted someone with personal experience being a part of the immigrant community, or at the very least direct experience working directly with that population. And some issues that we faced was that a lot of the well-established supports for immigrant students are kind of concentrated in California due to their more progressive legislation on that matter. And so we didn't really want someone from California in the sense of it being more expensive and just more complicated to get done in the short period of time that we had. And then some speakers that we did find combing through organizations that were doing similar work were heavily involved, but didn't have as much recent or lived experience that we wanted. But thankfully, we were able to find a speaker with Edulite Inc., which is a career consulting firm for first-gen and immigrant students. And founder and CEO Sarah Kim was the speaker that we had join us. And she has years of experience and also working with students, and then also going through it herself as an undocumented individual who navigated higher education with the same barriers that our students are facing. And she's on the East Coast, which was perfect. And she was very gracious working with us in our budget to make sure that we got as much out of the workshops as possible, and that everyone involved was able to benefit. And so finally, as that was done, we continued with doing the rest of the planning and adjustments. And these are just some promotional materials that we shared to promote the workshop series, with information about each workshop and details about the time, and also thanking the team that was involved. And as with any project, we had some ups and downs, so successes and challenges. The main one being attendance, I feel, was both a success and a challenge. We did have 7 total attendees, and we had representation from more than just Marymount University. We also had Trinity Washington, and then also students and staff. We didn't originally plan for staff to join, but we were very excited when they did. Student advisors. However, it was lower turnout than we originally expected. And even though we had good engagement with the workshop survey, a lot of people submitted questions, which was fantastic. The surveys that we distributed after were a little harder to get people to complete. But I've seen that that's kind of the case with most surveys. It's easier right before than right after. But communication was great. People who did sign up had no issues signing up and finding everything, finding all the necessary links. But once on the call, people have Zoom fatigue, especially now that the academic year ended. And then just as was mentioned in some of the other projects, there was a lot of pivoting and redirection because of things that were just ultimately out of our control. We had planned to get institutional funding, but the process to do that was more difficult than we anticipated, and for a lot of reasons. And so we ended up just working with the mini grant funding, and thankfully we're able to figure that out with our speaker. And then difficulties just communicating with the rest of the team, because it was towards the end of the semester when it really started picking up speed, and people got more busy. They also were just tired. I know I was tired. I had finals, and so kind of overcoming those challenges, but ultimately the event was a success, and we did reach 2 of the 3 institutions that we had invited, and again, a diversity with students and advisors. In the feedback surveys, attendees reported that they did learn something new and that the workshops were helpful. And they did feel comfortable throughout the workshops, sharing their stories and sharing resources with each other and connecting further during and after the workshops. And we are still in contact with the speaker and hoping to continue that relationship and bring more programming to the university through them in future years. And some additional feedback was from the attendees that they wanted to see the workshop happen again, which was very exciting to hear. But hopefully during the academic year rather than in between terms, as we did host this in mid-June. And they did feel that it was a good starting point and guide for further research on what they wanted to do academically and professionally, which was our main goal. You know, it wasn't going to be an end all be all, like this workshop is your holy grail, but rather this is a good stepping stone. And we definitely want it to keep going and progress in the future. And so in terms of next steps, sustaining that communication relationships that we established, I'm personally going to continue serving as an alumni advisor for the group Saints Unafraid that I mentioned earlier, but ultimately preparing underclassmen student leadership to continue that role and continue these initiatives. And also just involving myself with organizations that continue to support access to higher ed for this population of students, as something that is very personal to me and has resources like these have helped me get to where I am today. And so some lessons that I learned finally, just a lot of patience with my team, my institution, and myself. Just knowing that things take more time than we think and knowing how to work around that. And for that, I'm really thankful to the team that I did work with. Could not have done any of this by myself, and just really glad that there were support systems that we could access among our group. And then the power and impact of networking was a big one. Our guest speaker, I had met at a conference, and I literally stopped her coming out of an elevator to ask about having her participate at our school. And so just seeing how that eventually led to this workshop is it's just crazy to think about how impactful networking can be. And then mindfulness, just being present before, during, and after the entire process. A lot of the times we get wrapped up in how everything's going and not really reveling in the successes of it, and also not taking as much time to reflect on the challenges. General project and time management skills. I had never done anything like this before, so that was really exciting. And just fulfillment from paying it forward to my community, providing a resource that I wish I had had at the beginning of my academic career, and knowing that this is something that will continue to grow and beyond me and beyond this one event. So yeah, just big thank you to everyone that was involved, Edulite Inc., the Allstate Foundation for their generous contribution, Campus Compact for all of their support and training and just allowing me to have this opportunity. And then everyone in our club with Saints Unafraid who worked really hard to have this happen, and then also just existing. I think it's really great to have these spaces, and I'm so happy that they exist. And then just contact information, again, because the power of networking is what led me to this, and so always want to continue with that. So yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Amazing job, Karla. I love so much your project for so many reasons, because you took the personal experience. You also, you really did a beautiful job laying the groundwork and really thinking intentionally about the different aspects in the speaker and how to do that. And you did that well. You quite literally did an elevator pitch. Like, you tapped someone off the elevator and said, please come be our speaker. And it worked, and it did well. And I think you laid a really good groundwork. And I think about the idea of the metaphor of like the ripple effect of like small ripples of change. And for the students who did attend, the change they're going to feel in their own professional journeys, but also for the future students who are now going to benefit from you all doing the hard work this year. I'm really excited for them. So thank you so much for that work, Karla, and for taking your personal story and using it to motivate you to make further change. All right, I'm about to get to Kelly, but before we do, a quick reminder, if you have any questions, we are going to have time for 1 or 2 questions for our amazing speakers. So please use the Q&A function. There's a little box at the bottom with a question mark in it. Please drop in a question, and then Morgan and I will facilitate a quick Q&A at the end. But next we'll go to our amazing new fellow, Kelly Pilotte, who is going to talk about her amazing work honoring the life of her son. So Kelly, I'm going to pin you and put you to the front.
Thank you.
All right, Kelly, you're good to go. We can see your screen.
Thank you. Thank you everybody for coming to listen to this. About me, my name is Kelly Pilotte. I earned my associate's degree in addiction counseling from NHTI-Concord's Community College. I've continued getting credits there so I could transfer, and I've currently transferred to Southern New Hampshire University so I can obtain my bachelor's degree in nonprofit management. I started up a nonprofit and now I have to learn how to run it. A little backwards, but it's working for me. Another thing I wrote in here is that I was involved in Phi Theta Kappa, which is the Honor Society for Community Colleges. I thought it was important to add that because I was the vice president of service for both the region and my chapter. And service is just part of who I am and what I do. So the Michael Stephen Boyd Memorial Foundation is a foundation that we work on right now outreach with the homeless community. We do public speaking to address stigma associated with substance use disorder. And we work with others to invoke local government changes that affect those who are unhoused. The reason behind my project and behind the organization is my son, Sergeant Michael Stephen Boyd. Michael was a Marine Corps sergeant who served in Afghanistan. He had shoulder surgeries, 4 of them, and with those shoulder surgeries, they gave him opioid pain medication. Michael became addicted to that pain medication, and when he got out of the service, was unable to get that medication anymore and turned to heroin because it's cheaper. Sadly, I lost my son 5.5 years ago to a fentanyl overdose. And he is the reason why I do what I do. I decided that if I could just save one person, that would be enough. So that is the reason behind what I'm doing. So we conduct homeless outreach in Manchester and Nashua since 2019. This is a picture of some people at Veterans Park. We take clothing donations from the community and we sort it, separate it by size. And you can see we have the men's go on one side, the women's go on the other side. And it gives them the ability to shop for what they need. Being able to shop for things humanizes the event and makes it, I mean, you don't want somebody handing you clothing and saying, here you go, you look like you need a shirt. You want to go and pick out the shirt you want. So we allow them to do that. We set up in Manchester and in Nashua. They know when I'm going to be there, and they're all very happy to see me when they need new clothes. So my original plan was to get some tents, some sleeping mats, socks, sleeping bags, hats, and gloves to keep people warm in the wintertime in order to make it through the winter and give them a chance to make decisions in their life later that may help them. If they're not alive, they can't change. But the funding didn't come as soon as I wanted it to, so therefore I had no need for things like gloves and hats and warm things anymore. So I requested a change in what I was buying, and I ended up with 20 tents, 35 sleeping bags, 25 sleeping mats, 84 backpacks, and 150 pair of socks. The reason why there's so many backpacks and socks is that even though the tents and the sleeping bags and sleeping mats are great for people who are living outdoors, people in the shelter are also outside most of the day. So they have to leave the shelter at 8 a.m. They can't go back until evening. And meanwhile, they have to carry their stuff with them in order to make sure they can keep their stuff. So backpacks are huge in the community, whether you're living outdoors or in a shelter. And 150 pairs of socks sounds like a lot, but 150 pairs of socks don't go far. They're outside, the socks get wet. If you have wet socks, your feet get bad and you get sick. Socks are so important. And we all know what it feels like to put a brand new pair of socks on. You love it. It makes you just feel good. So these are just some pictures of some of my orders that I got. I shopped around and looked for the best prices I could, and Amazon was the place to go. So these are my sleeping mats. They're really great because they're thermal and they can keep, if it's cold, it keeps the cold from getting through to them. And in the summertime, it's something soft to lay on. This is just my truck all packed up. I put the sleeping bags and the sleeping mats and stuff like that in the front of the truck. You can see that some of them made it to the back, but I switched them up to the front. I want to make sure that the people who are unhoused are the ones that get the sleeping bags and the sleeping mats. Some people see them and just want them. I had a little boy that was there with his family who wanted one to go camping, and I had to explain to him that it wasn't for fun, it was for people who needed to sleep outside. So it's just easier to keep those out of sight. I get plenty of people who will be asking for them, and that way the people who need them are the ones that get them. This is Calavis Park in Manchester. It's one of the 2 parks that I go to. People know where I'll be and when I'll be there. So I found it easier. I used to go out to the encampments, but encampments change, people move, and it's sometimes hard to keep track of them. So if you go to the same place every week, they know you're going to be there and they come out to meet you. And if you for some reason can't make it some week, I show up and then they're worried, what happened to you? We were worried, we thought something happened to you, and they care about me and my well-being too. So this is my friend Josh. Absolutely love him. He is a big asset to me and my foundation. He lives outdoors and he helps me. He's like the ears and eyes of my foundation. He keeps me posted on what's going on. If somebody ends up in rehab, if somebody's in the hospital, if an encampment moves, if the city's going to shut one down and I need to get there so that I can help people out. He always knows what's going on and he's very good at sharing it with me. So he's one of my favorites because he's a big helper of mine, and so he's shown here with some of the stuff that I had brought out. He was very happy to pose for me. Here's 2 other gentlemen that I helped out. I don't usually have pictures for when I go out, because I don't like to ask them for stuff like that. It's, a private thing. I don't want them to feel like, oh, well, and I have to do something for you to get something from me. And a lot of people, this is not the best of times for them, and they don't want people to know that they're out there. One person that I want to talk about that I did not get a picture of and I did not even ask about, but I thought it was very impactful. There was a woman who came to me in tears. She had just been evicted from her apartment, had been living in her car. And her car was not registered and it got towed away. So she no longer, here she is with 2 children and nowhere to live, and she has to wait to get into a shelter because there's no room. So she was looking for a tent. She heard that I might have some. So I gave her a couple of tents, and some bedrolls and some sleeping bags. And I have never seen anybody so thankful for simple things in my life as this woman who now can keep her children at least out of the rain and the cold. So in my future, I want to open up a recovery center called the Boyd Center. The Boyd Center is inspired by my son's journey. He was in and out of rehab a lot. He was trying very hard to get better. And he used to, one time when he got out of rehab, he said to me, Mom, this is why it doesn't work. And he gave me all the good about it and all the bad about it. And he decided he wanted to open his own recovery center. Mom, let's do this. But I didn't have the time because I was still working full time and I still had a child at home that I had to support and I didn't have the funding to do it. So I told him I couldn't. When he passed away, I decided that in order to keep myself going forward, that I would do everything I could to make his dream a reality. So my plan is once I finish getting my next degree, I'm going to open the Boyd Center in his name to help other people like him. So far, we have done things, as I said, to stop the stigma, to help out with clothing and stuff. And we also started a scholarship in his name at my college for students who are in recovery. I mean, not in recovery, sorry, in school to do substance use disorder, as many of them are people that are in recovery. It's very common for people in recovery to want to help others get better. And so they come to the school and get their degrees. So I started a scholarship in his name in order to help them do that. I want to thank Campus Compact and the Allstate Foundation for the funding in order to help these people out. It was greatly appreciated, not just by me, but all of those who got the things that I bought for them. Thank you.
Amazing, amazing job, Kelly. Thank you so much for sharing that and sharing your story with us. And I think Kelly's a great testimony to how someone could take one of the hardest moments of your life and take it and make it a transformative thing that benefits. And Kelly, you undoubtedly have saved many lives throughout this. And I love the way you talk because they're your friends and they're your neighbors and the people in the community as well. And so NHTI-Concord has a lot to be proud of, and you're an exceptional Newman Fellow to represent them and their college. And so congratulations on the great work and thank you for the continued work. And we will post as much as we can to support fundraising for the Boys Center as well. So when we do send a follow-up, we'll send more information about your foundation out for folks who want to donate or learn more, see what it can do to benefit. For time's sake, I'm going to recognize we only have a couple more minutes left. And I do want to honor folks' time. So I am going to do a quick plug at the end. If you do have any chats or questions, please put them in the Q&A. We'll follow up individually with our presenters today to get you those answers. But before we end today, I do want to do a quick plug that if you're inspired by what you heard today and you're like, you know what, I have an idea myself. I'm a current student. I think I could do this. Or, you know what, I'm at a university or no university college student. I think will be excellent for this type of program. Please reach out to us. We'd love to tell you more about the Newman Civic Fellowship Program and the way your university or community college or institution can be a part. Morgan, my colleague who's on this call, is taking this leadership of the Newman program as well. Her email's on the screen as well as my own as well. So we'd love to talk to you more about this and the opportunity to get involved, not only in the mini grant programs going forward, but also the Newman Civic Fellowship overall. But thank you again so much today, speakers. I cannot thank you enough for the work you all did, the impact you all made, and the legacy you're leaving behind. I think all of you are exceptional student change makers and student leaders today, and not just tomorrow. And I wish I had $10 million to give you each to just keep doing your projects and doing your work, because I think it shows the power of when we trust our students and follow the students and let them be the change makers they are in their communities, they can do remarkable things, even with a small little amount of funds, and they can take it really, really far. So thank you all so much for coming today. We were going to have one final session next Wednesday. That will be Wednesday, June 26th at 1 o'clock Eastern time. We'll hear from our final group of Newman Civic Fellows who did mini grant projects. But in the coming weeks, we also will be posting on social media. So please follow us on Campus Compact on Instagram or on Twitter or LinkedIn. And then also please be looking on our website in the coming weeks. We'll post some videos of some of the Newmans also who are going to be doing that. And we'll make sure to include Parwinder's video in there as well. So thank you all so much. Have a great rest of your day. And thank you again for everyone who made a tremendous impact. Have a good rest of your day.